So it's officially been 100 days since Nancy Guthrie's suspected abduction from her Tucson home. And authorities say they have nothing new.
100 days, not 99, not 101. 100 days since Nancy Guthrie vanished from her home in Tucson, Arizona. And the people running this investigation want you to believe there is nothing to report? That is the official position. That is what Chief Nanos put out there. Nothing new, but that is not what the FBI is saying, because the FBI is not saying anything at all, and that silence means something very different. What we do know is this: inside the FBI's crime lab, extensive testing is still being conducted on a single strand of DNA recovered from Guthrie's home. One piece of biological evidence. That is what 100 days of investigation has narrowed down to. And the people who understand what that evidence could mean say the case is far from cold. Before we go further, if you are not subscribed to this channel, you are going to miss the moment this breaks. Every new development comes here first. One tap now means you will not be the last to know. FBI Director Kash Patel went on Hannity's podcast and said something that should have made national headlines. He confirmed that federal agents were blocked from this investigation for 4 full days. 4 days, while the most critical window in any disappearance case was closing. Kash Patel was direct about it. The first 48 hours of any disappearance are the most critical. This is a state and local law enforcement matter by jurisdiction, and for 4 days, the FBI was told to stay out. When they were finally allowed in, agents moved fast. They pulled the Ring doorbell. They asked whether anyone had contacted Google. Patel himself called Google's leadership directly and made a specific request. Even without an active subscription service recording footage, could they access the device's cache and retrieve whatever data remained? Google worked with the FBI on that request. That is how the image authorities eventually released to the public was recovered. Not through local law enforcement. Through a phone call, Kash Patel made himself to Google. Nancy Grace has not stepped back from this case for a single day. She pushed back immediately on the nothing new framing. Her position, that statement came from Chief Nanos, not from the FBI. Those are two entirely different sources carrying two entirely different levels of credibility on an active investigation. The feds, as she put it, keep their mouths shut. Nanos does not. He says what comes to mind and moves on. When Nanos says nothing new, Grace says that is demoralizing. But it tells you nothing about what federal investigators are actually holding. What Grace believes they are holding is a hair. The DNA sample currently being processed, whether at Quantico or at Astria Labs out of Santa Cruz, California, a facility used by the FBI and trusted by legal analysts tracking this case, is, in her assessment, likely a strand of hair. And the science being applied to it is not standard forensic testing. The method Grace described is single nucleotide polymorphism analysis. It is a level of DNA examination that operates on a different scale than the short tandem repeat testing most people have heard about from courtroom television. The capability of this technology, 1/16 of a teaspoon of bone powder, is enough raw material to generate a complete genome sequence. One hair processed through that technology could be the foundation this entire case is built on. But where that hair was found matters as much as what it contains. Grace was specific about this. A hair recovered from a common area, a mat at the entrance, a carpet in the living room, a couch, carries limited evidentiary weight. Any visitor to the home could have left it. But a hair found in the bedroom, in the space where, according to Savannah Guthrie, her mother was physically taken from, that is a different category of evidence entirely. That is what investigators and legal analysts call probative. That is the word that changes the direction of a case. Now drop your answer in the comments right now. Do you believe this DNA, wherever it was found, is enough to identify who took Nancy Guthrie? Yes or no? Reason it out below. The question of whether this is stranger DNA has been part of this case from the very beginning. Nanos early in the investigation stated publicly that stranger DNA had been found inside the home. Grace believes what is being tested right now is that same sample, not a home health aide, not a family member. Stranger DNA. She was pointed about the Guthrie family angle. People have continued to direct suspicion at Savannah Guthrie's relatives. Grace rejected it outright. They are not involved. What has emerged as the real obstacle in this investigation is not the evidence itself. It is what happened to the evidence before federal analysts ever touched it. Local law enforcement sent the DNA sample to DNA International Labs in Florida. It stayed there for 11 weeks. We are 100 days into this investigation. That is 14 weeks total. And 11 of those weeks, the DNA sat in a private Florida lab while Quantico waited. The FBI's lab has only had the sample for 3 weeks at the time of this report. 3 weeks against 11. That is not a logistical delay. Nancy Grace called it exactly what it is, a turf battle driven by ego. And that ego cost this case time that cannot be given back. Then came the report from inside the Pima County Assessor's office. A woman working there said she was personally scolded by Chief Nanos after it was discovered that her office had shared information with federal agents. Information the FBI had specifically asked for. A government employee doing her job, cooperating with a federal investigation into a missing woman, was reprimanded for it. Grace's reaction was unambiguous. This has to stop. Whoever is prioritizing jurisdictional pride over Nancy Guthrie's recovery is not running an investigation. They are running interference. But Grace also made clear she is not walking away from this, and neither is law enforcement. This is not a 2-hour film. You do not get to leave when it gets uncomfortable and call it a good story. This is a war. Wars are long. They are exhausting. And this one is not going to resolve in a single news cycle or a single arrest announcement. The work is ongoing, and the people doing it are buried in it right now. Consider the scope. Approximately 10,000 hours of video surveillance footage, license plate reader data, digital records of who was in the area around the time of the disappearance, fingerprints, fiber evidence. The volume of material is enormous, and every piece of it has to be checked, cross-referenced, and followed. There is no single moment where everything clicks into place on camera. No dramatic reveal. What closes cases like this is the accumulation of thousands of hours of methodical, unglamorous work by analysts who do not stop because the news cycle moved on. Nancy Grace said she has full confidence law enforcement will get an answer. Not partial confidence, not cautious hope, full confidence. The evidence is there. The science is running, and the people still working this case have not stopped. Neither has this channel. Subscribe to this channel for more updates on Nancy Guthrie.